Hello and welcome to another episode of Threat Update. I'm Kilian Englert. Joining me again today is Ryan O'Boyle. Ryan, how are you doing?
Hey, Kilian. Doing well.
Awesome. So we're here in the future, in the year of 2021 at this point. And what I want to do is, Ryan, I want to pick your brain. I know we had some pretty interesting conversations and adventures about what happened in 2020. So we want to try and put on or look into our crystal ball and see if we can predict some of the future here and see what we think is going to happen in 2021. So we saw a lot of ransomware. We saw a lot of APTs. Ryan, what do you think is going to happen with that in the future? How is that going to change, evolve? What are your predictions for, let's start with ransomware maybe.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see the evolution of ransomware. I know a lot of people were talking about it towards the end of 2020, ransomware as a service. It's definitely not a new thing, but it's going to continue to evolve further because it's getting easier for people to get their hands on, easier for people to make money on. It's really the point of a lot of these cyber criminals. And, we're also seeing the evolution in tactics in the sense of not necessarily just doing ransomware for the sake of ransomware, but using it as an exit strategy, using it as an obfuscation technique as they're, leaving the organization and things like that.
Yeah, and I think to your point exactly too, there's so much off the shelf stuff, just as you said, ransomware as a service, but even off the shelf offensive tools that pen testers and stuff can use that are being misused by bad guys. So I think it's just going to be easier in that sense. So I definitely agree with you. Another big one that we've seen a lot is brute force. I know earlier in 2020 we had seen a lot of it, and that was one of the biggest things I think you investigated and probably still was throughout the year. Do you think that's going to change at all? Do you still see brute force as being a big problem for companies?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that last year. We saw that the year before. I think we're going to continue to see that in 2021.
Sure.
Especially as organizations are moving more and more of their resources to the cloud, all different types of cloud architecture. But, the more that they move to the cloud, the more potential there is for open ports and open entry points for attackers. And we see it all the time. I mean, people are just scanning for anything. Oftentimes they may not even really know what it is, but they see something open, they're going to try and brute force it. So I think we're going to continue to see that ramping up.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And there's, Showdown and these other tools just make it that much easier for people to find that stuff. And just like you said, it's just more surface out there at this point. Here's another one too that I think we talked about a lot: phishing emails. Do you think 2021 is going to be the end of phishing emails?
Well, hopefully it's the end of the pandemic-related phishing emails, but maybe we'll start seeing some vaccine-related phishing emails. I don't think we're going to end with the phishing emails, though. I think that's, people are playing on the human factor at that point. So they're still going to be effective. The good news is there's a lot of education out there, and I think people have a much more security-focused mindset, which is positive, especially with everything like Sunburst being in the news. People are thinking about security, and they're seeing it in real life. So hopefully that helps drive that number down a little bit, but I still think they're going to be effective and definitely something that we're going to have to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just seem to be getting more refined and more effective in that case. Again, I think the days of the Nigerian prince and stuff like that are over, and I think the attackers are starting to refine that and realizing that to get the big fish, they have to craft a stronger phishing email. But I think you're right. I don't think that's going away. It's been with us since there was email, probably more or less. And then the other one I wanted to bring up too is you brought up supply chain attacks. We saw, again, at the end of 2020 here, a really kind of devastating one. How do you think that sets the tone for 2021?
Yeah, well, hopefully we have more security mindset around that. But at the same time, we are seeing more vendors move, again, more into the cloud. So having more cloud-based applications and also more and more vendors introducing things like live update functionality. So I think that's going to increase some of the risk there. Hopefully we're taking the appropriate measures to that point to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. It's definitely not in a vacuum. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see more of this, just hopefully not to the scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, live updates, of course, have a great benefit, making sure that software gets patched as fast as possible. The protection gets the updates that it needs, but it's a double-edged sword in that case. And I think you're right. I think it's an effective vector if the attackers can leverage it and be stealthy about it. So I think we've covered it. I think we've seen some pretty interesting things in our crystal ball for 2021 going forward here. So thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. If you find this content interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel or throw us a like or a comment. Ryan and I definitely appreciate that. Ryan, thank you, of course, for joining again, and thank you all for watching. Take care.